Welcome to my last mock draft. The draft's a week from now, and there we go. First pick, Houston Texans. I will select Jadeveon Clowney, defensive end from South Carolina. With him, a defensive front featuring Clowney, J.J. Watt, and Whitney Merciless would catapult the Texans' defense to one of the top defense of the AFC and give them the ability to compete for an AFC crown this year, or at least the AFC South crown with the Colts, Jaguars, and Titans. Texans can also go quarterback here if they stay put at number one. It seems Manziel would be the other choice for the Texans here. Pick number 2, the St. Louis Rams. I think they're going to select Sammy Watkins, wide receiver, Clemson. The second pick, the Rams could add an explosive weapons such as Watkins to the lineup, featuring Tavon Austin and Jared Cook, and make the Rams have a more explosive offense. With another high drafted wideout, Sam Bradford has no excuse to have a very productive season if he can stay healthy. The Rams could go offensive line here because Jake Long could enter free agency next year. A surprising pick here could be quarterback if the Rams don't see with Sam Bradford as a franchise quarterback. Remember, this pick is from the 2011 RG3 trade. For the Jaguars, Russ Bradley would welcome the energy and spectacular playmaking ability that Manziel would bring to Jacksonville. The Jaguars could go for a pass rusher like Khalil Mack or Clowney if they aren't taken yet. Number 4, Cleveland Browns. I think they're going to take Greg Robinson if he's available. He's a dominant run blocker with athleticism to quickly develop into a Pro Bowl caliber offensive tackle on the right side with Joe Thomas on the left side. Other needs for the Browns are quarterback and wide receiver. Number 5, upgrading the Raiders' protection is a priority. After losing Valdir to free agency and having the misfortune to not sign Saffold due to not passing his physical, the Raiders signed Donald Pence, who play left tackle, on a 1-year deal. The stationary quarterback and Matt Schaub, the Raiders need to improve their offensive protection. Other possibilities are the Raiders drafting a quarterback for the future, or going wide out, or maybe even pass rusher like Khalil Mack. And here is Khalil Mack from Buffalo, outside linebacker. Falcons would love to give Mike Nolan a dynamic linebacker to incorporate into his offensive or aggressive scheme on the defensive side. The Falcons could not pressure or sack any quarterback last year after losing John Abraham in free agency. Falcons could go offensive line here, but I don't see them reaching for the one at number 6. Number 7, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Blake Bortles can be a great quarterback for the Bucs. The Buccaneers do have Josh McCown and Mike Glennon. I see the Buccaneers trading Glennon in this draft if they do select a quarterback early, just like at pick number 7. Next pick, number 8. The Vikings are up. I think quarterback is a position of need after Christian Ponder, Matt Castle, and Josh Freeman were not the guys last year. Early this offseason, Bridgewater has seemed to be the best quarterback in this draft. Now that some scouts and analysts see Bridgewater falling out of the first round, if the Vikings were in this position to draft Bridgewater at 8, I would see him trading back and try to get him still. But there's no trade in my mock draft, so I'm just going to leave it here. And the Vikings will take Bridgewater. Vikings could go linebacker here to improve their poor defense of last year if they don't take a quarterback early. And number 9, Mike Evans, wide receiver from Texas A&M. Bills need more quality offensive weapons, and Mike Evans is more than just a quality receiver. With this selection, E.J. Manuel has no excuse with the weapons he has. The Bills have drafted him. With receivers Stevie Johnson, Robert Woods, and Marquise Goodwin, the Bills have weapons to spread the field. They also have C.J. Spiller and Fred Jackson as the ground attack. With the defense with a great front 7, the Bills can compete in the division with all rivals that all went 8-8 or better. The Bills did not go 8-8 or even better than that. They were below 8-8. Bills could take a linebacker or safety to improve a very underrated defense in Buffalo. Number 10, the Detroit Lions are up. They need a cornerback. I think Justin Gilbert fits in their scheme and also their division because they need a taller corner. Justin Gilbert, 6 foot. Lions could have more opportunities to disrupt the line of scrimmage because they have great linemen like Ziggy Hood, Sue, Fairley, Ansah. They just don't get enough time to get to the quarterback with the secondary they had last year, the Lions. They also lost Delmas in free agency. And already, they're in a division with Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Cordero Patterson, Greg Jennings. They need some corners. So the Lions could also grab Mike Evans, but they do have Golden Tate, and they do have Calvin Johnson. I don't know if they really need to go for a receiver here after even Mike Evans was already taken. Number 11, with Ray Horton becoming the defense coordinator of the Tennessee Titans, the Titans will look to upgrade some of their linebacker needs. Besides Casey and Morgan, the defensive linemen, the front seven of Tennessee needs some improvement. Otherwise, they're in a division with Andrew Luck. They need to get some pass rush. They already have some good pass rush, which I said, Casey and Morgan. But they could also go corner here, but I think a linebacker like Anthony Barr from UCLA, he could be one of the... He's only played that position for 2 years. He was a running back before. He could be a really good pass rusher to add to the Tennessee defense. And next, the Giants are up, number 12. Giants have issue of protecting the quarterback, which is Eli Manning last year, even with the addition of Justin Pugh in the first round of last season. Also, right guard, David Deal retired, so they need some offensive line help. Taylor Lewan could start from day one next year, and they also could move Pugh to right guard, so it's not like a situation where they have 3 left tackle or 3 tackles. They just move Pugh to guard. Giants could also take defensive tackle here, like Aaron Donald, but I said they should take Lewan. Number 13. At this pick, the Rams are up. They do have need safety help. They did get T.J. McDonald, which kind of improved their back end of their secondary. But if you get a guy like Clinton-Dix or Pryor, which Pryor, he's an enforcer just like T.J. McDonald, and getting 2 of those guys in the back end of your defense with already Robert Quinn, Chris Long, Langford, Brockers, Laurinaitis, Alec Ogletree. They got plenty of defensive players, and adding him would really improve. Not really improve, but they're already one of the top defenses. Their whole division's stacked, but adding Pryor would really help them. And number 14, the Chicago Bears are up. And their defense was awful against the run. They were pretty bad against pass, but everyone talked about all season was their run D. It was the first time in the NFL history that the Bears were ranked last in the league in run D. With this selection, it would help them disrupt the line of scrimmage with the signings of Lamar Houston. So they can really improve from last year and be maybe even the top end of the run Ds, because right now just Lamar Houston, I know he's pretty good, but I don't think they're going to get out even the top 20 worst defenses against the run. They lit up Bryce Brown to over 10 yards a carry last year, and Ben Cunningham had 100 yards against them. That shows that this defense needs improvement. Other picks they could go here are like Chris Conte. Chris Conte and Major Wright, they're safeties. They're below average, so they could go safety here like Clinton-Dix. But Aaron Donald, they really need to improve the run D, and that's why I think they're going to select Donald here. Pittsburgh Steelers are up. The defense was not one of the top defenses like most expected them to be. The worst performance was against New England, where they gave up almost, I think, around 50 points, maybe more. And Dick LeBeau, that was the worst in the Dick LeBeau era of this defensive coordinator for the Steelers. Ike Taylor had a down year, just like most of the defensive backs for the Steelers. And I think taking Dennard here would really help them, because then you got Ike Taylor with him. You got Troy Polamalu. They did lose Ryan Clark in free agency, but they did get Mike Mitchell, so this could really help them, because they didn't really have a good defense. They started 0-4. Their offense picked up and made them. They sailed away to 8-4 the last 12 games of the season. almost made the playoffs. Here we go. Dallas Cowboys are up. We're almost halfway through this mock draft. Dallas was 32nd ranked defense last year. They lost to Marcus Ware, the best pass rusher of the last around 10 years. Jason Hatcher, who had the best season of his career in their 4-3 defense. He went to the Redskins, the rivals, so they lost him. So they need defensive linemen. They also could go safety here, but I think Jernigan from Florida State would improve this worst-ranked defense of last year. They were the worst in pass D, but if you help out, you get that line, and it helps the secondary out. Because they do have Brandon Carr, Morris Claiborne, he was a first-round pick, so it could really help them if they draft him. And number 17, the Baltimore Ravens are up. They had a mediocre offense last year with a pretty good defense. This was due to the loss of Anquan Bolden by trade and the injury of Dennis Pitta in training camp. Also, the offensive line played really bad, and two of their running backs, Ray Rice and Bernard Pollard, were thought to be pretty good. They averaged around 3 yards a carry, both of them. So they need improvement. Good news is they found Marlon Brown, who's an undrafted player, who played pretty well, around 40 catches. But you add Marquise Lee. They also added Steve Smith in free agency on a 3-year deal. So you get this guy paired up with Steve Smith and Smith out there. You can really improve this offense from last year because they came off the Super Bowl, still had an okay year, but their offense really struggled. And getting Lee would really help them. So number 18, the Jets are up. Jets, they've struggled the last, 5 years since Brett Favre, left them. Mark Sanchez. I mean, they got to the AFC Championship twice, but their offense has never been the top. At least their pass offense. And Geno Smith was a rookie last year, quarterback. They added competition this year on a bunch of offensive positions. They had Michael Vick compete for the starting job. They also had Eric Decker to improve that, pass offense. They also added Chris Johnson into the core they already have with Chris Ivory, Bilal Powell, and Mike Goodson. They also re-signed tight end Jeff Cumberland to a 3-year deal. So add Eric Ebron, big, fast tight end. I mean, not as fast as Vernon Davis, but pretty fast. You get him to that offense. They could, maybe they go, in the middle of the pack, pass offense. Because last year, their best receiver, I would say, was David Nelson, who played their best. And he wasn't on the roster at the beginning of the year, so that just goes to show you this offense needs to get improved. Geno Smith did struggle. With the last 3 games, he was one of the top, let's say top 10. He was pretty good the last 3 games, but I think he had 12 touchdowns, 21 picks. That's, you don't want to have that as a quarterback. Number 19, though. Miami Dolphins, the rivals of the Jets. They gave up over 50 sacks last year, I think 58. They added Brandon Albert to left tackle, but they need a right tackle now. Jonathan Martin, he had all that situation with Incognito. So they traded Jonathan Martin. Incognito's not on a team. So drafting Zach Martin from Notre Dame, get you your offensive line from last year. You might only give up 30 or 40 sacks, which is okay. I mean, you got Tannehill, quarterback. It's going to give him time to throw some to the wide receivers. So I think Martin. This is the earliest I see him getting taken. I don't think the Dolphins will take anyone else. I think this is their guy. Unless another lineman drops like Luan, but I don't see it. Number 20. We got a 10-6 football team that failed to make the playoffs. In the division, they got Seattle, you got the 49ers, you even got the Rams. The very good defense calls need to look to the future and fill some of the young talent to replace some of the older players like Abraham, Carson Palmer, Larry Fitzgerald, and other players like Dockett. I believe it's either quarterback or pass rusher at number 20. I think they will pick a pass rusher who's available, which is D Ford. He's the best one available, I think. D Ford might not even play much the first year, As soon as John Abraham, leaves, he will teach him some stuff. Dee Ford can be one of the better defensive end or outside linebackers in the league as soon as he gets a chance. He just sits under. He will just be a backup for maybe a year or two, but he will get some time because he's a very talented player. Number 21, the Green Bay Packers are up, and they had an 7-1 season, made the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers missed, many games. They started 5-2 with him when he was healthy. But the last 4 seasons, a big weakness has been their safeties. Morgan Burnett, they have paid him. He's an average to above average safety, very good tackler. But they need another safety because Chris Banjo and Andy Jennings and Sean Richardson, they're not really good. Shouldn't be even starters, maybe backups. So either if Calvin Pryor's here, they might take him. If Clinton-Dix isn't, either safety's good. I see no reason why they don't select him here if he's available. Other players they could take is C.J. Mosley, who I've so far dropping in this draft. He could be even a top 10 player. And we also got Clinton-Dix the third. I don't see him fitting in this defense because they're going to a hybrid, and I don't think he will be good for a 4-3 defense, Clinton-Dix. So that's my only problem with him. They have Joyce Peppers, Nick Perry, and Clay Matthews at linebacker, so I don't see him really going there with A.J. Hawk in the middle. They play the 3-4. C.J. Mosley could fit, but I think the safety is a huge need for them, and that's why I think they're going to pick Clinton-Dix here from Alabama. So the Eagles, with this pick, I think they're going to pick a corner. They could replace Deshaun Jackson and get a guy like Brandon Cooks or Odell Beckham. But this class, it's stacked, this receiver class this year, and I think they won't go there if they got a couple corners still available that are pretty good. They could take Kyle Fuller or Bradley Roby or some other guys. But the Eagles do have a good nickel corner in Boykin, and Kerry Williams is a decent starter outside corner. They need another one. Bradley Fletcher, I don't think he should be a starter, maybe a third or fourth corner. He's okay, but I don't think he should be starting. With this selection, I think they're taking Roby. He does have off-the-field issues recently, but I still see him going in the first round. Number 23, Kansas City Chiefs. They need a playmaker. Jamal Charles carried the load as running back, and you could argue is the best receiver. He led almost all rushing and receiving categories for the Chiefs last year. Brandon Cooks that you should take here if he's available. He's pretty good. He's fast. You add him to Donnie Avery and Dwayne Bowe. You got some weapons. They did lose McCluster, so he can replace him even in the return game. McCluster went to the Titans, if you didn't know. They could add a defensive end because they got DeVito and they have good linebackers. Justin Houston, Tom Ali. They could go there. I don't see any other place would go. Maybe corner, but I think they take Brandon Cooks who's available. Get the Bengals now. They've been one and done 3 times in the playoffs the last 3 years. Bengals have a very good defense. They did lose Mike Zimmer, their defense coordinator of the last many years, and he took the Minnesota job as head coach. With the older corners they have, Terrence Newman, Pac-Man Jones, guys like that. They do have a first-round pick, Trey Kirkpatrick, but they need a nickel corner. They haven't filled this need for many years. And you need a nickel corner now in this league with the slot receivers. And very small corners, like 5'9", 5'10". Great nickel corner, best in this draft. He could very help this defense. They did lose Michael Johnson for agency, so you can see him going defensive end, replace him, maybe even safety, because they only got Taylor Mays and guys like that in the safeties. Number 25, we got the Chargers. Some people might be mad at this draft because you're saying, how was Kyle Fuller dropped this much? I know some people think he's the best corner. I don't believe so, but he's a great pick if he's still here for the Chargers. He's the last good defensive back on my draft board. if he falls here, I see no question why the Chargers won't take him, because most people can't even name a corner on the Chargers. Los Antonio Cason, last year in free agency, they really had no good corners. They made the playoffs, but they have a very good defense coordinator in Pagano. And we're going to the 26th pick now. We got the Browns from the Trent Richardson trade, which happened in September. And they need a quarterback, they could need a running back, and they need some receivers left, I made them take a tackle, so they filled that need. Brian Hoyer's the best quarterback on the roster right now. They got Vince Young and Tyler Thigpen, but one's going to be out the other, so they're both probably not going to stay on that roster. They're going to draft the young quarterback sometime in this draft. I think it's now. I think they're going to take Derek Carr, who's still available, Fresno State. Other guys they could take are like running backs, Carlos Hyde, Trey Mason, Bishop Sankey, and maybe even Mike Seastrung. But I think it's going to be the second year in a row that we don't get a running back in this draft in the first round, I'm saying. Never happened in NFL history. They could also take C.J. Mosley because they lost to Carl Jackson, middle linebacker. And so far, I don't have a team with the need for C.J. Mosley, so that's why I'm dropping this draft. Well, the next pick here's C.J. Mosley. The Saints were ranked 32nd in 2012. They went to the top 10 in 2013 on defense. But the top 15 prospect falls to the Saints. I believe they would take him. And this guy from Alabama, very good. They lost Jonathan Vilma. It's a free agent. And this could fill their middle linebacker position. If this year's draft, most teams do not have the need for linebackers, like I said. And this is why I see him falling. They could also go for another guy who's kind of dropping. He's Lewis Nick's third. So they need a defensive tackle, but I think they're going to take Mosley. Here's the Panthers, the rivals of the Saints. They went, a very good season. They lost to the 49ers in the playoffs. And now they need receivers. They lost Hickson, LaFell, Ted Ginn, Steve Smith. They lost their 4 best receivers. And before, like a month ago, Marvin McNutt was their best receiver on their board. Never had a career catch. So I think they need a receiver. Is a huge need. They got Kukasha and Avant free agency. Getting this 6'5", Kelvin Benjamin from Florida State, the brother of Travis Benjamin, who's a returner receiver for the Browns, could really help. Cam Newton, who's injured right now, he will be back though. Getting this guy, he can be your best receiver for years to come. We got our number 29 team that lost in the AFC Championship. Most of these teams don't have many holes. These top 4 teams. So the Patriots, they need a linebacker or defensive end. I think it's their need. They also could go receiver, but they got LaFell and all that. They added in free agency. With the loss of Brandon Spikes, and Mayo was injured last year. See some injury concern. They had Jamie Collins, who stepped up from Mayo. I think they can have him go to where Brandon Spikes was, outside linebacker. And you could also, and I think they didn't take Tuitt from Notre Dame. He's versatile. He can play, he can play defensive end. He could also, if you need him, he'll play defense tackle, but it's probably best at defensive end. Another guy they could take is Ryan Shazier. He's following my draft. Most people think he's very, one of the best outside linebackers. He's ranked 3rd on my outside linebacker list. And, New England runs a hybrid, so he can play right next to Wilfork in the 4-3. So, he has some versatility with Chandler Jones, that defensive end, so he can be another defensive end. They have plenty. Patriots will love this guy. He can play anywhere on the defensive line. Last couple picks now. We got the 49ers, lost in the NFC Championship to the Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl champion. They need defensive backs. They lost Dante Whitner and Carlos Rodgers in free agency. They got a hit last year in the first round with Eric Reed, a free safety. But I don't have any good defensive back, I think, worthy of a first round pick here at number 30. So I think Rashid Hageman could compete with Glenn Dorsey at the defensive tackle position, where Dorsey played last year, or sit behind Justin Smith for a year or two. This guy has versatility, play any position on the defensive line. Also, the 49ers are in position to trade up for any good defensive backs if they need one. But I don't have any trade, they said, in this draft, so they're here. They have no defense. I don't see any good defense back. I think they're going to take Rashid Hageman. Could also go receiver, but to compete with the number 3 spot, Quentin Patton. But I think they're okay there with, Anquan Boldin, Michael Crabtree. And Patton, he was a rookie last year. He might be pretty good. So one of the last 2 picks now. Number 31. Denver Broncos will select Coney Ely, defensive end, Missouri. Play next to Michael Sam. So he didn't really get much variety because, Michael Sam, he's the gay football player. So no one really talks about this guy, but he's better than him. At least I believe so. Ely can sit behind DeMarcus Ware or compete with Derek Wolfe for the defensive end position. He's a nice selection for the Broncos to be here at number 31. But other position they could go is corner, because they did lose Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie or Champ Bailey in free agency. So that's a pretty big need. I mean, they got Kahib Talib from New England free agency, but then they need some more pass rush. Had Sean Phillip last year, who replaced Von Miller pretty good. So, they need more pass rush. This team's already good. So they don't really need one of the first-round picks to play immediately. So DeMarcus Ware and Derek Wolfe, they can still be starters for this year. But this guy, he's a player, and he will be pretty good down for years to come. Number 32, Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. This is the last pick of the first round. They need right tackle, guard, or depth on the defensive line. And I think with the players available, I think they're going to take Cyrus Quandro at this spot. He's a bulldozing right tackle, very good run block, very physical. Maybe the strongest line in this draft, but that you can argue that. They could take receiver here, but they got Doug Baldwin, Sidney Rice, Percy Harvin. It's a good group of receivers. I don't think they need to take one. There's plenty of receivers in this draft. So at this selection, I think they're going to take him, who can replace Breno Giacomini, who signed with the New York Jets last year. So I think that's the last pick of day one. Very good run blocker, and Cyrus Quandro from Alabama. So here are my top 7 guys that didn't make my the first round. Got guard David Yankee or Xavier Suafilo, or 2 top guards in this draft. They didn't get selected in my first round. Maybe they could go to Cleveland, at the 26th pick, but I made them take Derek Carr, so I don't, no other team really needs guard. At least they don't need a big need. It's not a huge need for any other team. Odell Beckham, probably the best receiver they didn't have in the first round. Most likely he will be in the first round with teams trading up and stuff. I think he's going to be selected. Some people even think he's better than Marquise Lee. I think he's pretty much even, but I think Kelvin Benjamin, I think he's just a pretty good fit in Carolina, so I didn't have him go there. Or he even could go to Seattle. You also got Ryan Shazier. Very, very good outside linebacker. Could be dominant in this league. You also got Chris Borland. Most people haven't heard of him, but he's probably the second best middle linebacker in this draft. He likely will go early in the second round. You also got Carlos Hyde, who's, in my eyes, the best running back in this draft. And this could be, like I've said, the first time in back-to-back years in the first round that a running back hasn't been selected. Because last year, no one in the first round was a running back. Also, Lewis Nix, I see him falling. He had injury last year in college. And a team needs to be a 3-4, I think, to have him fit. So, I just see him falling. It's like half the teams can't draft him almost. At least I think that, because they need to have a 3-4 defense. My last thing I can say is, This is my mock draft, and we got, when this video is uploaded, it'll be around 4 days and 9 hours until the draft. And when you see this, it will be a little bit less than what I have up on the screen. And thanks for watching. Have fun watching the draft. Hope you get the guy you want your team to get. Bye.